Good afternoon. This is Beaty-Coffey of the Ministry of Uncover No More. It feels so good to be able to say that and know that it's going to be there the rest of my life now. I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it at times. And while I know I made it, I'm a solitary pagan now. And my life has been meaningfully made meaningless. I'm not quite reconciled to that, but I will be someday, perhaps. It isn't just my choice, you see. So many in America think that everything is about their freedom of choice. They are stupid people. I'm going to read a portion out of JRR Tolkien's The Silmarillion. I am within chapter 2 of Eihwaz and Yavanna. I don't like this gentleman's mustache. It is purple. This is someone, I suspect. This is Eihwaz. I had called him up, whoever he is, and he's a mystery because he is in a fairy tale by JRR Tolkien. He is crying. And the rune that I drew is Defense, Avertive Powers, the yew tree. This is also going to have a reading for the Book of Runes. So this particular video will go into 2 different blog articles. The chapter begins by Eihwaz made the dwarves, even as they still are, because the forms of the children who were to come were unclear to his mind. Now, Eihwaz is a part of the Valar. And the thing is in the Valar is the deity. And well, we're the part, in this fairy tale of J.R.R. Tolkien's where must be dwelt with is an issue we deal with. And we end up getting upset at each other, and everyone else gets upset at us. But all in all, love never fails. But Kara, this is just a fairy tale. And I will repeat that you need to listen to J.R.R. Tolkien's history. Because he's here with me, as is Abraham Lincoln. The last Republican ever to have lived in the United States of America is Abraham Lincoln. How exhausting to admit after my 55-year life where I was required not to think and to be of that party and the Christian church just to survive, supposedly thrive. Most Christians don't anymore know what thriving is. Then they know what it's like to actually live in hell. Else they wouldn't be tweeting, Facebooking, using all sorts of television media to declare stupidity, cruelty, and absolute degradation of themselves in first one opinion and then another called conspiracy theory. So back to chapter 2 of the Silmarillion. The dwarves were made because the power of Melkor, The dwarves were made first of all because the forms of the children who were to come were unclear to Aule's mind. And what is more, because of Melkor, who is one of the Valar, whose mind is wicked. He wished, therefore, that they should be strong and unyielding. And that is true. I know people who are actually very much dwarf-like, as in not small people. It's a quality that they have needed to be. But fearing that the other Valar might blame his work, he wrought in secret. There are mysteries. The Runestones has a blank rune for this. And that's all I'm going to say about that. How there are individuals that came upon the earth and that come upon the earth, and some of them are of the greatness, and some of them are of the wickedness. And right now we have several families that are of the wickedness and that threaten us yet again. Worldwide. So that is how it starts. Now, when Ole labored in the making of the dwarves, he kept this work hidden from the other Valar, but at last he opened his mind to Yavanna, who I have taken the form of right now as I read the Silmarillion. But I took her off of my Twitter. It is not any longer parody. It's Sorceress Terra. Who I am. But not Kara. So who's reading Kara? Kara. If I'm reading, if I'm arting, if I'm cooking dinner, that's the first heaven in the Bible. And the second heaven. It's not the third heaven, which is hell. I've been there too. And testified it recently as the Double Moon's Prayer Initiative being the most up-to-date document that I actually wrote in hell. Again, I have another Tribe Judah elect gentleman named Michael Shane Davis, who point blank told me he couldn't read my blog and coverynomore.blog because his eyes burned. He's just as weird as I am. If you want to call us weird, we're actually the peace on earth, goodwill to humankind people. With the king called Tribe Judah elect. We're just Gentiles. An American, his last name happened to be Davis. So you're talking not so much to Kara Coffey here as you're talking to Kara Davis Beaty today on this website blog. So this portion of the Valar opened the mind to Yavanna. And my middle name is Anne, so there's an Anna in that, so it makes sense. Historically, somewhat. Spiritually, if you want to talk that way, Christian. Then Yavanna said to him, Eru is merciful. Now I see that thy heart rejoiceth as indeed it may, for thou hast received not only forgiveness but bounty. It was not looked well upon that the dwarves had been made, is what she's saying. Yet because thou hiddest this thought from me until its achievement, thy children will have little love for the things of my love. They will love first the things made by their own hands, as doth their father. They will delve in the earth, and the things that grow and live upon the earth they will not heed. Many a tree shall feel the bite of their iron without pity. But Aule answered, Thou shalt also be true of the children of Iluvatar, for they will eat and they will build, and though the things of thy realm have worth in themselves, and would have worth if no children were to come, yet Eru will give them dominion, and they shall use all that they find in Arda, though not by the purpose of Eru, without respect or without gratitude. Not unless Melkor darken their hearts, said Yavanna. And she was not appeased, but grieved in heart, fearing what might be done upon Middle-earth in days to come. Therefore she went before Manwë, and she did not betray the counsel of Aule. But she said, King of Arda, is it true, as Aule hath said to me, that the children, when they come, shall have dominion over all the things of my labor, to do as they will therewith? It is true, said Manwë, but why dost thou ask? For thou hadst no need of the teaching of Aule. And then Yavanna was silent and looked into her own thought. I have done this many times as a spiritualist. I have the backstabs to prove it. And I've got daughters that know what I'm talking about because they experienced it as well, and we lost our relationships. I have yet to tell you what I should have done. I have yet to say what I should have done. Are you sad, Kara? Yes. Yes, I am. I should have done it. Then Yavanna was silent and looked into her own thought, and she answered, Because my heart is anxious, thinking of the days to come. All my works are dear to me. Is it not enough that Melkor should have marred so many? Shall nothing that I have devised be free from the dominion of others? Then Manwë, I skipped a little bit. Then Manwë sat silent, and she thought of Yavanna, that she had put into his heart grew and unfolded. And it was beheld by Iluvatar. Notice that Iluvatar could not behold what was in Yavanna's heart and mind, and I understand that too. Then it seemed to Manwë that the song rose once more about him, and he heeded now many things therein that, though he had heard them, he had not heeded before. And at last the vision was renewed. He had a vision in the beginning of the book. But it was not now remote, for he was himself within it, and yet he saw that all was upheld by the hand of Iluvatar. And the hand entered in, and from it came forth many wonders that had until then been hidden from him in the hearts of the Anwar. Then Manwë awoke, and he went down to Yavanna upon Ezelohar, and he sat beside her beneath the two trees. And Manwë said, O Kementari, Eru hath spoken, saying, Do then any of the Valar suppose that I did not hear all the song, even the least sound of the least voice? Behold, when the children awake, then the thought of Yavanna will awake also, and it will summon spirits from afar. And they will go among the Kelvar and the Olvar, and some will dwell therein, and be held in reverence, and their just anger shall be feared. For a time, while the firstborn are in their power, and while the secondborn are young. But dost thou not now remember, Kementari, that thy thoughts sang not always alone? Did not thy thought and mine meet also so that we took wing together like great birds that soar above the clouds. That also shall come to be by the heed of Iluvatar, and before the children awake there shall go forth with wings like the wind the eagles of the lords of the west. Then Yavanna was glad, and she stood up, reaching her arms towards the heavens, and she said, I shall climb the trees of Kemendari, that the eagles of the king may house therein. But Manwë rose also, and it seemed that he stood to such a height that his voice came down to Yavanna as from the paths of the winds. Nay, he said, only the trees of Aule will be tall enough. In the mountains the eagles shall house, and hear the voices of those who call upon us. But in the forests shall walk the shepherds of the trees. Then Manwë and Yavanna parted for that time, and Yavanna returned to Aule, and he was in his smithy, pouring molten metal into a mold. So the eagles have come. And my father was a shepherd of the trees. It's very easy to see. It's very, very easy to see that my father was, and is a shepherd of the trees. My father is also one such as one of the wizards. The main one in Lord of the Rings. The name eludes me right now. I'm in another world with JRR Tolkien. So my spirituality is peeping through. Don't call me stupid. Pay attention. Because whether you like it or not, those of us who are artistic and spiritualist and look like a piece of shit in America, which I do, who knows, my loves? Perhaps we are the children. Then again, perhaps we are the eagles who stay in the mountains and we only hear the voice of love. There's a lot of different, beautiful possibilities. What I'm going to do is say, come with me, great people. I have prayed for you this day by runes that speak forth without any human intervention save the hand that draws them unseen. Eihwaz is defense, avertive powers, the yew tree. As we are tested, we fund the power to avert blockage and defeat. I suppose when I put this on my runestone website, I will link the article that I just wrote about people like my mother. I have no hate here. What I do have is balanced love. There are too many people in too many places around my life and his, being the king, who want to claim something as love that is nothing of the sort. He is greater than I. No questions asked. When he came down this time, he declared me greater than him as a Gentile, a girl, and a Jew of the Spirit, just like him. He never opposes me. Does he do that to everyone? Of Judah, I don't know. I just know about our relationship. And I have a responsibility, according to runes, to protect the forever of Tribe Judah elect. We have been abused enough. Just look at the news. As we are tested, We fund the power to avert blockage and defeat. That is the epitome of my mother and her family in my life. At the same time, we develop in ourselves an aversion to the conduct that creates stress in our lives. 25 years, I have developed an aversion for the entire 55 for what creates stress. If there appears to be an obstacle in your path, consider that even a delay may prove beneficial. This is true, loves, this is true. Do not be overly eager to press forward, for this is not a time or situation in which you can make your influence felt. Patience is the counsel Eihwaz offers. Nothing hectic, no acting needy or lusting after a desired outcome. Now, this rune speaks to the difficulties that can arise at the beginning of a new life, and I am facing my 56th birthday with an entirely new spiritual, metaphysical life. Often it announces a time of waiting for a spring to fill up with water, for fruit to ripen on the bough. Perseverance and foresight are called for here. The ability to foresee consequences before you act is a mark of the profound person. And yes, I'm a profound person, if nothing more or less, who knows how to put up a blog to block what betrayed me my first 55 years. To protect my children, who are billions across time. The greatest of these is love. Avert anticipated difficulties enough right action, through right action, this rune is saying. And yet, even more than we are doers, we are deciders. Once the decision is clear, the doing becomes effortless. For then the universe supports and empowers our action. Yes, you see, I'm a universalist and can't even say that very much because nobody knows what to do with us like me. Receiving Eihwaz, you are put on notice that through inconvenience and discomfort, growth is promoted. This may well be a trying time. Certainly it is a meaningful one. So set your house in order. Tend to business. Be clear and wait on the will of heaven. Yes, and amen.